Hi, welcome to another night of the best of the Thursday Night Jazz Salon series. I'm Dave Ross. I'm a member of the Athletic Club and privileged to serve on the Board of Governors. I wanted to tell you a little bit about tonight's show. You know, if you haven't been, or if you hadn't gone to the Thursday Night Jazz Salon while we were still playing live, you may not have an accurate sense of what it was like. It's kind of remarkable. We get world-class musicians and singers. We get together from 7 to 9:30 on Thursday nights down in Invention, and without any rehearsal, the singer calls songs, tells us which key she wants them played in, and then we start playing the song. Really, most of the time without a discussion of how we're going to start it, or what sequence solos will come in, or how we're going to end it. So it makes it really exciting for the musicians, and hopefully fun for the audience as well. On tonight's show, which took place originally on January 20th or so of 2020, it features a really interesting singer. I'm sure you remember Ray Charles, the Ray Charles Band, and his backup singers, the Raylettes. On one of his great hits, Hit the Road Jack, Ray would get into a back and forth with one of the lead Raylettes, basically she telling him what a scoundrel he was. And the woman who sang on this night, and what will be streamed now, Elaine Woodard, was that lead Raylette for Ray for many years. She's got a great voice. She sang on a lot of stuff for Stevie Wonder. In fact, Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday features 7 singers, and she's one of those. Elaine Woodard was married to the lead sax player in the Ray Charles Band, Ricky Woodard. They're divorced now, but they both join us that night in January for the Thursday Night Jazz Salon. And this Thursday night at 7 o'clock, see, that would be May 2nd, I believe. No, May 5th. I'm going to do a live interview with Ricky Woodard at my website, which is thejazzsalon.com. That interview will probably go from 7 to 7:45 or so. And if you love sax players, Ricky's one of the greatest in the world today. He played with Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and he's played with pop stars like B.B. King and Rod Stewart. He's on the latest John Legend album. So he's really a great player and a wonderful person. So if you're interested, go to thejazzsalon.com at 7 o'clock Thursday night to listen to that live interview. So we've got Ricky Woodard on sax tonight, Elaine Woodard singing. We've got a really interesting piano player who's played with us a couple of times before. Isamu Mcgregor is his name. And this was on a Thursday night in January. The next night, he was opening for the country act George Strait in Las Vegas. So Isamu's quite a player, plays in many genres, and he's great in jazz. I think we've got Nolan Shahid playing trumpet. Judd Pillett is playing drums. I'm playing bass as usual. And it was really a fun night. So I hope you enjoy the best of the Jazz Salon tonight. It's the 7th in our series. And I appreciate you continuing to participate, at least virtually, in the Los Angeles Athletic Club. Thanks so much. Hope you have fun. Bye-bye. Wow, thanks so much. I've never had a chance to play that. Maybe I played it once or twice in my life with a piano player, but we've got a terrific piano player tonight, and he was willing to try it, so there you go. The plan was, because it's been a little while since we've had both our horn players, and I was so excited to have them back. Is Joseph out there? I don't see Joseph. Okay. And I was thinking of Miles Davis and all those great tunes. And so we were thinking of starting with Milestones, but we had no horns or kazoos or anything, you know. So are you guys up for Milestones? Look at you. You're just looking so good, man. Damn. It's just not fair. He gets a hand for just getting dressed in the morning. Okay, so here's a song not even made famous by, but this is really like a Miles Davis anthem. Came up in the late 50s, just before Kind of Blue hit, and it's called Milestone.
Thanks so much. What a thrill it is to be on the bandstand playing with these guys, playing these songs that I grew up just so in love with. I mentioned earlier, before we started doing Waltz for Debbie, that I was sitting with a fellow named Joseph just a couple of nights ago. It was at the end of the night, and I'm trying to do two things at once here. And he sang a little song to me. We were sitting on the couch. It was probably 9 o'clock at night. And he went, bum, 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 bum. And I said, where does that come from, Joseph? And he said, well, I went to Brooklyn College. And in the quad at Brooklyn College, there was a clock tower. And that was the chime of the clock tower. Whoa. Hey, Joseph. Take you right back to Brooklyn College. Well, we've got a wonderful band tonight, and it's thrilling to be on the bandstand with them. And I must say, we've got, gosh, I meant to remember, Perkins Will. Is that Perkins Will in the back? So the international architecture firm Perkins Will is in the back with new and used employees all here celebrating the great firm as part of the Jazz Salon. And to look out at all of you, you know, the place is packed, and I know many of you, and it just feels wonderful to be on the bandstand with your smiling faces in front of us. Let me tell you about these guys in the band. Quit misbehaving. You're already like... So I'm going to start our pianist. When I looked on his website to see if he might be available, I saw that he was opening for George Strait in Las Vegas tomorrow night. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get him to do the gig on Thursday night if he's got a big show in Vegas the next night. But he was willing to do it, and I was so happy, yeah. Hey, they're George Strait fans, man. They're George Strait fans. Don't they know that country music is not hip, for God's sake? And it's interesting, a lot of great young players, you know, they're ambitious and they get out there and play with as many famous artists that they can, just for the sheer pleasure of connecting with those heroes. But in his case, he's more of an original artist. He writes a lot of music, and he performs with a lot of guys, but they're kind of the other cool young cats. He has performed in over 30 countries, and he's played with guys like Seamus Blake and the great Benny Maupin, who played with Miles Davis, Virgil Donati, Ari Honig. So he's been around. He's still young, but tomorrow night he's playing with George Strait, if you can believe it. Give a warm welcome, Isamu Mcgregor. I'm absolutely thrilled. We've played here for several years and rarely had a drummer. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, somebody came to the show, wrote me the next day, said how much fun they had, and that they had a career as a TV producer, director, writer during the day, didn't need the dough, and they're a jazz drummer, could they play, you know? And I was real snooty, you know, I said, well, I mean, we're really good, you know. And he said, I'm a sensitive drummer, you know, I won't cause trouble, and if you don't like me, it'll be fine. Just give me a chance. I said, okay, fine. So he came, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago for the first time and immediately became the resident drummer of the Jazz Salon. He has been involved in many TV shows, including Coach and Mad About You and Just Shoot Me. Give a warm welcome, Mr. Judd Pillett on the drums. Hey, look, the trumpet player is just meeting the drummer and finding out it's his favorite show. So I'm going to get to our trumpet player in a second, but is he a trumpet player tonight? Yeah. Oh, you got that new horn. Oh, yeah. So our sax player, I get such a kick. You know, people, I'll say, yeah, well, I play jazz at the athletic club. And their eyes kind of roll back. You know, they think of like behind the potted palms, like playing stupid music. You know, I said, yeah, but I play with really great people. And I bring up our sax player because his pedigree is so remarkable that it's almost hard to believe. He was born in Nashville. His first break in show business was with Ray Charles. He went on the road touring the world with Ray Charles for 7 years. And when I first met our sax player, I had seen him in concert several times. So I was like all excited. And I said, wow, like what was, you know, your favorite artist that you ever played with? And he said, Ray Charles. You know, I played like 5 nights a week and the same repertoire, the same arrangements. And it was always a thrill to be on the stage with Ray. And when you hear whom else he's played with, like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Diana Krall, he's on the latest John Legend album, B.B. King, Rod Stewart. I mean, you know, and he puts Ray at the very top. He's got a distinctive sound. Listen, you don't have to listen carefully, but just open your ears up and let his sax fill up your ears. And then from then on, whenever you hear that sound, you'll know it's him because he's got such a distinctive sound. Give a warm welcome to one of the great sax players of the world, Mr. Ricky Woodard. Now, our trumpet player. He's like the bad seed and the Little Rascals all wound up together. Now, he's got a problem. He's introverted, and he's gone to therapy for his shyness. And the therapist said, well, you know, maybe if you stop wearing just tan and brown, boring clothes, maybe it'll help you kind of come out of your skin a little bit. And, like, he doesn't have any middle ground, you know. So he went from tan and brown to Victorian England with striped. Those are leotards, by the way, not socks. Yeah. So, again, like our sax player, his background is really hard to believe. First of all, I've got to tell you, he's a professional athlete. He's run his entire life. We've had people come to the Jazz Salon who could care less about jazz, but they're runners, and they've heard of his reputation, and they just want to come and kind of touch him and like run their fingers over those striped calves of his, you know. Now, how good a runner is he? Well, Track and Field magazine is like the Bible for, you know, all the track and field events. And every year they name one male athlete and one female athlete for the whole world for all the track and field events. And he has won that award. So that gives you an idea. Now, not only has he won the award, he has won Male Athlete of the Year for track and field more times than any other living person. Yeah, go ahead, give him a little hand. I mean, it's crazy. Ay. And I think it was maybe it was Monday or Sunday or something. I get a text from him. He said, I'm in Dayton, Ohio, Wichita, Kansas, and I just ran in probably the Masters National Track and Field. It was another one, but something. And he currently has 8 world records. This week, he got the 9th. So he got another world record this week. Yeah. So for those of you mothers and fathers who worry that if your child starts to play jazz, they'll become dissolute and, you know, no, they'll become Olympic-level athletes if they're good, and they're motivated. Now let's talk about music. When he was in his 20s, he was already playing with the great Duke Ellington's orchestra. He tried out at age 27 for the swingingest band in the history of jazz, the Count Basie Band, with Count Basie still head of the band. And he won first chair trumpet. His first gig was at Carnegie Hall. And he was so clueless that when he was told, you have to go to New York, there's a rehearsal at X address, X time, he went to the rehearsal, and it was only at the end of the rehearsal that Count said, okay, so the concert's tonight at Carnegie Hall, be there at such time. And so he hadn't packed any clothes. He had tennis shoes, so he came with a tuxedo that night, the band tuxedo, and tennis shoes to play at Carnegie Hall. He loved Count Basie. Every story you hear about Count Basie talks about what a beautiful human being he was, and our trumpet player would be the first to vouch for that, and would have stayed with him for longer than 3 years, but he got a call from the dark side, the side of music that is capitalistic and all about commercialism, pop music. I can hardly even say it. Pop music. Marvin Gaye called him up and asked him to go on the road. He left Count Basie, went on the road with the great Marvin Gaye, and became Marvin Gaye's musical director. So if you love Marvin Gaye's music, you've already been touched by our trumpet player. Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah. And he went on to tour with Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Natalie Cole, who's that? Phil Collins, the great. In fact, how about the Preservation Hall Jazz Band? They're right? Okay. So I didn't know he'd played with them. And I tried to get him for a gig. It was on a Sunday afternoon in Long Beach. And it paid good money. And I thought, this is a cinch. And I called him up like a month earlier, and he looked at his calendar. He says, oh, I'm busy that day. I said, well, what are you playing on an afternoon on a Sunday? He says, I don't know, but it says I have to bring my driver's license to the gig. So maybe it's a television. I don't know what it is, but I can't play your gig. So I played the gig. I got home. And what did we just have last week? We had the Grammys, right? So it must have been this time of year, because I got home, and it was Grammy night. So I turned on the Grammys. Literally, you know how the TV goes, it opens up, and there is a close-up of our trumpet player taking a solo. The Preservation Hall Jazz Band was being honored. They were booked. They were double booked. They had a booking in Colorado. They sent their regular trumpet player to Colorado so they could have our trumpet player be on the Grammys with them. The great Nolan Shaheed, everybody. There's only one of them. Yeah. How cool is that? Well, I love singers, but I'm stupidly picky. I'm just obnoxiously picky. And when I heard that our sax player, when he was playing with Ray Charles, had fallen in love with one of the Raylettes, which Ray was not really enthusiastic about that happening, as you might imagine. He fell in love, and she fell in love with him, and they got married. And they're no longer married, but they're still close. And he would tell me, he said, I'm telling you, my ex-wife is a fabulous singer. You got to get her up here. And finally, I had the talk of coming up from Riverside County, and she came up, and I just fell in love with her singing, and you will too. I did a gig with her, a birthday gig, and so it came time for us to sing Happy Birthday. And she says to me, hey, let's do the Stevie Wonder version, you know, Happy Birthday, because that's me singing with Stevie on Happy Birthday. So how cool is that? Would you please welcome up to the bandstand the fabulous Elaine Woodard. So you're taking like the long, slow way. Oh, the drummer. He blocks your entrance. Boy, that stinker. So we're going to start out with a song written by Frederick Lowe. And then what's Lerner's first name? Mr. Lerner and Frederick Lowe. And I think it was for Brigadoon. I've never seen it. But I think that's what this is from. No, almost. I take that back. I totally take that back. So we're going to start out with a song about the weather. And it was written by somebody you all know, George Gershwin. Is that the right key? Are you in D flat? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is a song about how hard it was to see in London. It's called A Foggy Day.
A foggy day in London town had me low, it had me down. I feel the morning with such alarm that the British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wonder, Could this thing last? But the age of a miracle hadn't passed. Suddenly, I saw you standing right there, and through foggy London town, the sun was shining everywhere. Had me low, it had me down. I flew the morning with such alarm that the British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wonder, could this thing last? By the age of a miracle hadn't passed, but suddenly I saw you standing right there, and through foggy London town, the sun was shining. And through foggy London town, the sun was shining. And through foggy London town, the sun was shining everywhere.
So for the second tune, I'm breathless already. We only played one tune. Burt Bacharach. Yeah, right. I love Burt Bacharach. And I had the honor of getting to know Hal David, who wrote all the words to all the Burt Bacharach songs just a few years before he died. He was the sweetest guy. And here's a tune they made famous. And Dion, right? Dion's behind every hit they ever had, practically. The great Dionne Warwick. Here's the look of what? The look of love.
The look of love is in your eyes, a look your smile can't disguise. The look of love is saying so much more than words could ever say. And what my heart has heard, well, it takes my breath away. I can hardly wait to hold you, feel my arms around you. How long I have waited just to love you. Now that I have found you, you've got that look of love. It's on your face, a look your smile can erase. Be mine tonight, and let this be the start of so many nights like this. Let's take a lover's vow, we'll seal it with a kiss. I can hardly wait to hold you, feel my arms around you. How long I have waited just to love you. Now that I have found you, don't ever go. You've got that look of love. It's in your eyes. The look, your smile can't disguise. Saying so much more than words could ever say. And when my heart has hurt, well, it takes my breath away. I can hardly wait to hold you, feel my arms around you. How long I have waited just to love you. Now that I have found you, don't ever go. Don't ever go. Don't ever go. Never go. You got that look, ooh, of love. Never go. Never go. Never go. 'Cause you got that look of love. Ooh.
We're going to do a Richard Rogers song that you'll know better if I said, what's the coolest song that Chet Baker ever sang? My Funny Valentine, right? Whoa. But we're going to do it a little different because this is jazz. You got to always do it different. So you want to kind of, dum, dum.
Funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with your heart. Your lips are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mind a little weak? When you open it to speak, are you smart? Are you smart? Don't change your hair for me. Not if you really care for me. Stay, little Valentine. Stay. Each day is Valentine's Day. figure less than Greek. Is your mind a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? Are you smart? Don't change your hair for me. Not if you really care for me. Stay, little Valentine. Stay, yeah. Each day is Valentine's Day. Ooh.
That's the first step. Yeah, like where that happened so fast. But before you do that, please welcome up to the bandstand, Mr. Kerry Peck.
After that intro, I'm going to have to do a Bukowski. I was debating it, but. During my worst times on park benches and in jails, and living with bad women, I always had this certain contentment. I wouldn't call it happiness. It was more of an inner balance that settled for whatever was occurring, and it helped in the factories and in the relationships when they went wrong with the girls. It helped through the wars and the hangovers and the back alley fights, the hospitals. To awaken in a cheap room in a strange city and pull up the shade, this was the craziest kind of contentment. And to walk across the floor to an old dresser with a cracked mirror and see myself smiling, grinning at it all. What matters most is how well you walk through the fire. That's as bad as it's going to get. They tell me, man, you are brave, and I'm not. Bravery was never one of my vices. I just didn't feel quite low enough or as cowardly as some I saw around. But I never tried to push the world out of its orbit. I just wrote, so what? I never informed, though, and I laughed a lot at what was too much, loud enough to be heard. The time will come to remember and burn with shame when we shall have done with dishonesty and plain lies, with these strange times when a man who was simply honest was called brave. Yevtushenko, who wrote that about 60 years ago. Every voice which reaches our ear, and lips that speak to us, and ours which reply, our eyes, even our ears, are all part of this ecstatic conversation. Listen to people on the street, in a restaurant, in joy, in love, a constant singing about what is alive and what's new. Now, there is also a speaking class, those who perform and explain status and the hierarchy of things, professors, politicians, of course. Priests tell us we're under the Lord and the world is under us, and only they know the way back to the garden. And so we, the children of God, swelter in heat against each other, having lost our connection to the divine. How has our family come apart? Who's it that told us that we're separated from God? You tell me. Does a mother fox give birth to a rhinoceros? Is there any creature that does not birth its own kind? Look at the stars. They're born and they shine and they die and they are reborn into new stars, of course, which for eternity has been the way things work. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to love the soft animal of your body. Love what it does. And meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles and the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies and deep trees and mountains and rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Carrie Peck. We got a little bit of culture. Good for you. So for those who weren't here when we first started, I just introduced the band briefly, and I'll bring back our singer. We've got on drums a gentleman who, during the day, directs and produces television, and at night becomes a degenerate jazz drummer. Please welcome Mr. Judd Pillett. That's his girlfriend, Felicia, yelling from the couch. On piano, just a thrilling piano player, and if money's no object and you want to fly to Vegas, he is opening for George Strait tomorrow night in Las Vegas, a 2-night gig, playing country and western jazz. It's a very esoteric, very narrow genre. He's the only one who plays it, and so if you want to hear it, you got to go there. Please, a warm welcome, Isamu Mcgregor. On sax, he's played with everybody. Ella, Sarah, Sinatra, toured with Ray for 7 years, and he was on the latest John Legend album, the one and only Mr. Ricky Woodard. About a month ago, a trumpet player from Chicago was in town for a gig, and he came to hear us, and sat in. And our trumpet player heard this trumpet that this guy brought, and went like, "Ooh, I'd really like that trumpet." And he bought it from the guy that night, and he's playing it here tonight. Would you please a warm welcome for the great trumpet player, Mr. Nolan Shahid. Hey, man, did you hear her sing in the first set? She's just fabulous. Give a warm welcome back up to the bandstand, Elaine Woodard. So we're going to do another George Gershwin song. We used to have a couple who sat right at this couch where this couple is sitting right here. Sherm and Phyllis Hulvey. I fell in love with Sherm. He was about 92 when I met him. And Phyllis, his first cousin, was Rosemary Clooney. And so they spent their entire lives with Rosemary, part of her circle. Sherm was head of endocrinology at Cedars and head of the Diabetes Association. So they were just magnificent people. We've lost Sherm. Phyllis is still with us. But Rosemary Clooney sang this song at their wedding on May 26, 1950. And I know the date because it was my birthday. It's one day I was born. It's the day they were married. So here's a George Gershwin song that for lovers everywhere, our love is here to stay.
It's very clear our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancy and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. It's very clear our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay. But our love is here too. Our love is here too. Our love is here to stay.
Where did Nolan? He evaporated. And he stands out in a crowd. I mean, what's next up? Oh, okay. Are you going to do a shadow of your smile tonight, you think?
Sure.
Would you do that now? That'd be okay? Okay. So let's do you remember the Sandpiper? Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah. And who was the guy? Richard Burt? I mean, whoa, they were like crazy. And up at Big Sur, like so sexy and everything. So the guy who wrote this song, maybe the last living of the great American songbook composers, Johnny Mandel. He's probably early 90s, and still active and all that good stuff. And he wrote this song, and it is so gorgeous. And it's called The Theme from the Sandpipers, or The Shadow of Your Smile. Yeah, right? Exactly. Do you want to do it as a bossa, or? Okay. Yeah. Nolan, if you're out there, come back to the band.
The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Look into my eyes, my love, and see all the loving things you are to me. Our wistful little smile was far too bright. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Now when I remember spring, all the joy that love can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. The shadow of your smile when you are gone will color all my dreams and light the dawn. Look into my eyes, my love, and see all the loving things you are to me. A wistful little star was far too bright. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Remember spring, all the joy that love can bring. I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. Now when I remember spring, all the joy that love can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. The shadow of your smile. The shadow of your smile. Shadow of your smile.
Get it back. Like
He asked me if I wanted to do a Ray Charles song. No, I don't.
Oh, okay. What a difference a day made. Now this is written by a woman, it says here, Maria Griever. Yeah, yay, yeah, God damn it. Okay, Here's a difference. What a difference a day made.
What a difference a day made. 24 little hours brought the sun and the flowers where there used to be rain. My yesterday was blue, dear. Now I'm a part of you, dear. No more lonely nights, it's true, dear. Since you said you were mine, what a difference a day made. There's a rainbow before me, clouds above, maybe stormy. Since that moment of bliss, that tender kiss is heaven when you find romance on your menu. What a difference a day made, and that difference is you. a difference a day made. There's a rainbow before me. Clouds above may be stormy. Since that moment of bliss, that distance is heaven. When you find romance on your menu, what a difference a day made. What a difference a day made. What a difference a day made. And that difference is you. The difference is you.
So I just asked our singer if she did this the dirty. She sang the dirty version or the clean version, and it's really the same lyrics. It's just how you sing it. And remember Phoebe Snow? Phoebe Snow used to sing this, and I'm telling you, it was the most beautiful obscenity you ever heard. It just brought tears to your eyes. But I got the feeling that you don't go that direction. This is called, whoops. Yeah, we're doing the clean version. This is Teach Me Tonight.
Phoebe Snow, huh? Oh, I have to listen to that. Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah. She's still here, right? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh. Okay. Yeah, kind of like a stroll. Kind of like a stroll. Yeah. He got it. Yeah.
So we are doing the dirty version.
Did you say I've got a lot to learn? Don't say I'm trying not to learn. Since this is a perfect spot to learn. Teach me tonight, starting with the ABC of it, down to the XYZ, C of it. Help me solve the mystery of it. Teach me tonight. The sky is a blackboard high above you. And if a shooting star should go teacher stand so near, my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Teach me tonight. Sky is a blackboard high above you, and if a shooting star should go by, I'd take that star and write, I love you 1,000 times across the sky. One thing isn't very clear, my love. Should the teacher stand so near, my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Teach me tonight. Graduation almost here, my love. Teach me tonight.
Well, we're getting close to closing it up. What do you want to do for a... Seriously? Well, we'll play 2 songs really fast. Then. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What do you think? We got to leave him on, you know. Are you meditating? What are you doing?
Oh, no.
Okay, okay. Yeah, do you want to do moon dance? Well, do you know the word? Tell me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Do you want to do moon dance?
good.
Okay.
Oh, moon dance, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. Moon dance. You gonna pack up already, Ricky D? Okay, I'm coming in. That sounds pretty good right there, too. It's a marvelous night for a moon dance, with the stars up above in your eyes. A fantabulous night to make romance, neath the cover of October skies. And all the trees on are falling from the breezes that blow. And I'm trying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play soft and low. And all the night's magic seem to whisper and hush, and all the soft moonlight seem to shine. And you blush. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Well, I wanna make love to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning is come. And I know that the time is just right. And straight into my arms you will run. And when you come, my arms will be waiting to make sure that you're never alone. There and then all my dreams will come true, love. There and then I will make you my own. All the night's magic seem to whisper and hush, and all the soft moonlight seem to shine in your blush. Can I just have one more moment with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning has come. And I know that the time is just right. And straight into my arms you will run. And when you come, my arms will be waiting to make sure that you're never alone. There and then all my dreams will come true, love. There and then I will make you my own. Every time I touch you, you just tremble inside. And I know how much you want me so. I can't hide. Can I just have one moment dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Should have been loving you, time to do it up, do it up. Should have been do that, do that, do it up. Should have do that, do that, do it up, do it up. Should have do ya, do that, do that, do it up. Should have do ya, do that, do you do that, do that. Can I just have one more dance with you, my love? Thank you.
So we're going to close it up with it. Unless a few more $100 bills show up in the tip jar. That'll do it. That'll keep us going. So we're going to close with a beautiful old song called That's All. And before, I'm joking about the tip jar, but not completely. Because, just to be clear about it, let's see. You parked in downtown LA for free? Or maybe $10 if you went over 3 hours. By the way, the time on your parking ticket, when you get to the parking lot, is going to be 1 minute over 3 hours, they will charge you the maximum amount. So if that's the case, if you're anywhere near it, just ask your server for a $10 validation, and you're good for as long as you want to stay. Okay, so don't forget to get that. If you get down there and they're going to charge you, and because you didn't get your validation, just come back, because we'll be here. You know what I mean? So don't pay that money. So maximum $10 parking instead of $45. Great food, great service from the servers. And yeah, right, Jimmy, Shante, Michelle, and Sonia, and David, and then a $10 cover charge to listen to some of the greatest musicians and singers in the world. I mean, holy Toledo. So, it's just to say, since the only way we get paid is the tips, so this isn't the icing on the cake. This is the cake. You know what I'm saying? So, if you're having a lot of fun and enjoying it, and you appreciate the value, then before you leave tonight, please put something in the tip jar. It'll mean a lot to the band. So, on behalf of the entire band, we want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And we're going to go into our last song called That's All.
I can only give you love that lasts last forever, and a promise to be near each time you call. And the only heart I own for you and you alone, that's all. That's all. I can only give you country walks in springtime, and a hand to hold when leaves begin to fall, and a love whose burning light can warm the winter's night. That's all. That's all. I am sure there are those who have told you they would give you the world for a toy. All I have are these arms to enfold you, and a love time could never destroy. If you're wondering what I'm asking in return, dear, you'll be glad to know that my demands are small. Say it's me that you'll adore for now and evermore. That's all. That's all. sure there are those who have told you they would give you the world for a toy. All I have are these arms to enfold you, and a love time could never destroy. If you're wondering